to the desert outpost. We're craving more with every sweet stride. We will ride. We're opening the door. So here's to the grind. We'll tear it down. There's nothing that can never take down the ground. And we will pop them down and make drum sound. There's something inside we're vessels sticking around. Now watch the ice steel. We're fighting time. Yeah, we're fighting time. We're fighting time. We're fighting time.
Hello, 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 governors. Welcome to Osiris League Season 9 Group Stage Round 3. I'm your host, Plato Gaming caster and content creator for Rise of Kingdoms. And today we are joined alongside our fellow caster, Brian Koo. Glad to be here with you, man.
Plato, good to be here with you as well. How about that new music for the Osiris League this year? Pretty strong.
Pretty strong indeed. All the yelling and shouting, getting you hyped for this upcoming game, as it is week 3 in the Osiris League playoffs, where in each realm, the 32 teams that made it through the qualifier stage continue their journey through the playoff group stage. Each group has 4 teams, but only the top 2 teams in each group can make it to the knockout stage. We're casting Group A in the realm of Anubis, 1188 from Kingdom 1188, and 3310 from Kingdom 3310. Believe it or not, their alliance numbers are their kingdom numbers as well. These 2 teams are both still undefeated, going 2-0 in their group. So both these teams will be making it to the knockout stage. However, this is still an important game, as these teams will be playing for seeding in the knockout stage. Whoever wins will be the first seed, while whoever loses will be in the second seed for the group. 1188 are a team that has been consistently one of the best teams in the realm of Horus, making it to the semifinals last season. They're looking to continue their success in Osiris League by making a run to the championship. 3310 is an up-and-coming team, which last season actually didn't even make the realm of Sobek knockout stage. They're looking to prove the doubters wrong and make that knockout stage by winning the first seed, as the first seed is in their sights. Both teams are 2-0 and are looking to make it out of the group stage as the first seed, but only one team can stay undefeated. Will 1188 continue their Osiris League momentum and leave the group as the first seed, or will 3310 prove that they're one of the top teams in the realm? Brian, what do you think of this matchup?
Plato, I think we've got a very good, interesting matchup today. Maybe the best way to talk about this is through the perspective of 3310, since that's the team that people are probably less familiar with. 3310 is a young team that entered Season of Conquest about 6 months ago. They've played 2 KVKs now against older kingdoms. I think along with 3308, when you talk about kingdoms that are young but really can actually compete with the older kingdoms, 3308 is at the top of the list, and then I think 3310 is right there next to them. Mm-hmm. They have had 2 good KVK performances in a Season of Conquest, and in the era before that, when they were fighting other young kingdoms, they went head-to-head against 3308 twice in back-to-back KVKs and beat them in kill points in one of those KVKs, and matched them, mirrored them in KP in the other one. So they have done very well in KVKs so far. And after watching them play Osiris League last week, I think this may be the format that they're best at. They had a nice win against 1365's B team, INT, last week. They won both mids without being contested and really out-ratioed INT quite heavily on the kill points to severely wounded's ratio. So they've been very good. They have played very well in a number of formats. But today they're up against a real deal top Osiris League team. Last week, they didn't get pressured to the point that it disrupted their game plan. This week, we're going to see what happens when a legitimate top OL team pressures 33-10 and forces them to, play from the back foot, at least from time to time. I think it's going to be a very interesting match. Can 33-10 rise to the level of an 1188?
Yeah, 33-10, if I remember correctly, was one of the best payouts in the first week, where a lot of people bet on 1473 to win that match. It was pretty overwhelming, actually, but 33-10 able to take advantage there. They won against INT, as you said, and now they are up against the Goliaths, the Giants of 1188. And the reason why this game is so important, Brian, is because, this group has some pretty stacked first seeds. If you see the rest of the realm, this is the realm where 93T is. This is the realm where JST is. Those two teams alone, you definitely do not want to be fighting against those teams in the first round of the knockout stage. And if you're the second seed in a group, that is the risk that you will be having. So essentially, if you win this game, you are guaranteed to not face 93T and JST in the first round of the knockout stage. Although JST still has to fight a match against 63DS. So if 63DS wins against JST, you definitely don't want to fight against them as well, because JST is a strong team. So you definitely want to be winning this game, and a lot is on the line for both of these teams. I will also say 1188 in their past Osiris Leagues have been in the same realm as 93T JST. They have been in Horus, and they've been a solid team, but they've lost to 93T and JST time and time again. So they definitely want to make sure that they do not face them in the first round here. Brian, what are your predictions going into this match?
Well, I think that in the last match, 1188, they did not win any mids. They were fully focused on the side. They used No March and Time Warp. They also gathered a lot. 3310 had all mid skills last week. They didn't have No March on the bar. It's going to be a clash of styles here, Plato, and it's going to be whether one team wants to really challenge the other. Does 1188 want to challenge 3310 in the mid, or does 3310 want to try and compete on the sides? Old versus new, sides versus mid, just a clash of styles, and only one team can win.
Let's see who will win and which style will win as we get into the game. We have 1188 in this top left corner. Teleported in, all ready to go. Versus 3310 in the bottom right. What do you expect to see from the opening? Is it going to be a pretty standard opening here, or will there be some shenanigans going on from these two teams? What do you think, Brian?
Well, I think it's going to be fairly standard in the way they do things. What I noticed last week was that 3310 did over-index to the inside lanes. They took one of INT's Desert Altars right at the start, and held it. Like, they got first capture on INT's Desert Altar. Both teams last week used Dust Up at the start of the match to help them fight on the sides. So what I'm seeing Plato so far in this Osiris League is these altars are really up for grabs. I don't know why. I don't think a change has really precipitated altars being more up for grabs for these first captures, but we've seen it in a lot of matches already, and I think teams are going to try for it again here.
You could see the speedy double C's. Last week we saw kind of an obelisk fumble. I'm sure both these teams are ready to capture their obelisks here, defend them, make sure that they get first occupation, first capture. I think we saw a sentry be used, or was it it was energetic by 1188. A sentry in response by 3310. No energetic as of yet from 3310, which is kind of unusual this early on in the match.
Yeah, very interesting. I believe they cast it last week, if I'm not wrong. But, we've seen some pretty crazy skill usage early in the match. I saw in the match earlier today, you had a team cast No March early on.
Yeah,
so
it was No March as I believe the first structures started opening up. So it'll be interesting 3310, if they don't insta-use Energetic, would that indicate that they're potentially going to be using a skill early here that maybe takes 4 points or
Well, it could mean that, but not necessarily, because as I mentioned, they used Dust Up very early on in last week's match, and so the thing is, like, if you use Dust Up and Energetic, that does compromise your points mid in a way that perhaps Dust Up only wouldn't. So it still seems like Energetic would give you value, though, even if you cast Dust Up early on. So yeah, it could be something strange here, but nothing so far. Everybody's just moving out.
Everyone's just moving out. No Energetic used by 3310 being the biggest question mark so far, but it's been mirrored. You could see the sentries are even mirrored from one another.
Yep.
There's
I wonder if these two
middle
sentries on the
play.
bottom side can see each other. I feel like it's close. Very close
They
to those
cannot
sentries.
because of the wall, I believe.
I guess we can look at the view range here. Yeah, you're right. They can't see each other. Very interesting. Not a bad spot for rewards, actually. I like that red ward.
These sentries, given the vision that they need, I believe that, yeah, you could see that 1188 seeing the full amount of marches going towards the Sky Altar, going towards the Desert Altar. That'll be in response as well for 3310. They'll see at least how many people are going towards the Sky Altar. They won't really have any knowledge about the Desert Altar defense here.
Yep. Last week on the top side, that's where 3310 had their most success. They both first captured the Desert Altar and they managed to put a ton of pressure on the Shrine of Life. It was Baba TC Adasun solo defending the Shrine of Life last week. So 3310 had success on the top side last week. They'll probably try to replicate it again here. That's obviously the advantage side for red because they get to that Desert Altar pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But plenty of blue here as well. Actually, looks like good numbers for blue on the defense.
On the bottom side, I will say that there's barely anyone going towards the Sky Altar, but there's a lot of Sky Altar
Defenders,
a lot of defenders. So perhaps the defense of the Desert Altar, which we've seen in the Grand Prix, will turn into an attack on the Sky Altar if they're healthy enough. It's really
I think
interesting.
what's more
to see.
likely. I think what's more likely is that Blue's going to attack that Shrine of Life on the top side. 3310 did give up that Shrine of Life early on last week as well. So you see the patterns of these teams. Like they're not perfectly balanced in every single lane here.
As the initial attack on this Desert Altar has started, 3310 going into the murder ball of 1188. As you said, 1188, they did have quite a couple of numbers there, so I do feel like this is a pretty evenly matched fight so far between 1188 3310. The thing that's tough about attacking this Desert Altar is soon that the obelisk will start opening up and there'll be some teleport space, so they will start having 1188 will start having a teleport advantage to refresh this murder ball. So to really, pressure this Desert Altar, you have to overwhelmingly win that first murder ball fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Teleport's starting to come in now, so some of these sad facing marches from Blue, you're seeing them go back to that obelisk area. They're going to refresh very quick, and like you said, Plato, it's obviously enough. I think you can see the pressure 3310 is putting on this area. Like even though the numbers were pretty even, and 1188's got that Huo in the garrison, they are pressuring this area for sure. But I think 1188 has done enough here that they're going to get this building back. And worth noting, neither team has cast any skills here early in the match. That is a bit different than last week.
Very interesting because Energetic, I feel like would have just generated more points for 3310 at this point, right? If I remember the skill correctly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that people are using Energetic because it is value.
Yeah.
But points they're not tighter, they're just being used differently now, so maybe teams feel like Energetic, it locks you in a little bit more, I guess, maybe. Like you have like you're maybe guaranteed to have less points at certain time periods of the match.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the best explanation, but
it's like using energetic uses skill points or when there's not much going on, so that when there is stuff going on, you'll have that full bar when you need it. Perhaps this indicates 3310 have a full 6 combat skills. Maybe they
did last week. They had all mid skills last week. They had Bog Down and Desert Storm on their bar last week.
Wow. Bog Down, Desert Storm. Yeah, perhaps they scrapped energetic for a different skill. I will say though, this opening looking pretty even for all sides here. 3310's Shrine of Life, as you were talking about, is under threat, but it should still... Everything else on the map looks pretty standard. Desert Altar was held. Shrine of Life on the top side also being attacked. So it's actually a mirrored Shrine of Life attack. The only difference is this is a Huaki Bing garrison versus the Gorgo on this bottom side. But this Gorgo is getting really, really low. There you go. Dragon Dance able to fill that garrison super, super fast here. But as I was talking about,
the Gorgo or the Huo? It's close. It's very close at the moment.
It is pretty close. I wish you could do a split screen between the two.
Yeah. I'm watching the Huo.
All right, I'll keep track on the Gorgo. Gorgo looks like it'll hold.
Down
There's enough.
Goes Huo. Down goes Huo.
So the Huaki Bing, who would have thought, lost against the Gorgo garrison. But as I was talking about earlier, there is that attack of 3310 on the Sky Altar, but this is just to sad face here for this mid rotation. We see 3310 rotating mid pretty early here. 1188, as expected, going more towards this building game, a late rotation, or perhaps a no rotation at all from 1188 for this first arc.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think both teams know, and we know that 3310 is going mid. They were so mid-focused last week. We know what 3310 is going to do here. The question is, what is 1188 going to do? Will they try to compete for this first arc, or will they give it up or sack it, as we like to say? Hard to say so far. Their marches from the start zone are going middle. That seems like pretty standard for all teams, is like you just send them the mid marches to mid, unless you have to take back one of your own buildings. So the question is, what are the teleporting marches going to do? And with 4 minutes to go until arc, I'm not seeing a lot of teleported marches going mid. More of them are headed to the side.
This 1188 Desert Altar take was pretty big. It's not first occupation, but at least they're able to flip a DA, deny 300 points. Try to slowly chip away at this occupation game that we were predicting that they would play. Sky Altar also under heavy assault, so you could see that 1188 playing the altar game here, trying to make sure that 3310, if you go mid, we're gonna give you the 4 altar gambit, 3 altar gambit, and just continuously pressure your structures.
I mean, it's already dangerous, right? It's already a dangerous spot for... Well, I mean, listen, 3310's dealing with it, right? They flipped back both of their buildings. Like, they lost that Desert Altar, but they flipped it back very quickly. And so it's like, if 1188 had cast No March already, for example, they would have gotten a few extra points, but it would have disappeared so quickly that, 3310 has stabilized the side so far, for sure.
I will say,
but numbers wise,
still no skills, by the way. Still no skills used.
Still no skills. You listen, Plato, it's happened before to me that you forget to set the skills. But
now
I've never seen it happen in Osiris League, though.
Imagine using Quick Stride or the movement speed skill for this, whatever the presets are. I don't know, man.
Well, it's just like a blank bar if you don't set it. But I think these carry over from one Osiris League week to the next.
Yeah, it should.
Oh, they should have something. Yeah.
I mean, either way, they're not down by too much. They're actually up in terms of points, but they should be down with the Desert Altar flips. That's a 600 point advantage that 1188 were able to achieve by flipping those Desert Altar, the Desert Altar and Sky Altar. And we can see
I think what's happening here is, like, we got a little bit baited by 1188 that maybe they would go side games, and it almost looks like 3310 got a bit baited as well. Numbers wise, it looks to me like 1188 is mobilizing more to the mid. Now they're going to get there a little bit late. There's only 90 seconds to go before arc, but they've really continued to rotate mid, whereas 3310 has sort of like stopped rotating, and it does look like that 1188 does have a numbers advantage mid.
Yeah, you could see
Red
the
has the
numbers.
temple, though.
the numbers on the Desert Altar and the Sky Altar of 3310. They're expecting an assault. There is an assault on the Sky Altar, but the Desert Altar is completely uncontested. And there's just
a lot of wasted marches
standing.
there. A lot of very wasted marches.
Oof. Will that make the difference on this mid fight? It looks like they do have skills, by the way. They did use Dust Up, so there's at least that for 3310. Will those marches standing at the Desert Altar make or break this mid fight? It is to the death by 3310, first arc. And Heaven's Grace in response by 1188. Wow, so Heaven's Grace was used by 1188. It was used by WIB last game as well. So Heaven's Grace making a little bit of a comeback in these games. People using it on the bar. Some of the top teams putting it on the bar. We see a 3310 Siege March just standing there watching the madness unfold.
Get in there, buddy. Get in there. Gaja.
Gaja Mata is now open fielding with the rest of them, but it is a sad face galore from 3310 with To the Death. I feel like this is just a numbers advantage, a difference from 1188. Although the arc is spawning, will they be able, them being 3310, will they be able to get a first pull and perhaps reinforce the arc as it gets closer to their side? Oh my goodness. 1188, they are starting sad face as well. 3310 getting the pull. It is a very, very low Joan of Arc march, though. Joan of Arc has been sad-faced. And now it is 1188's turn. Will they be able to sad-face and clean up the rest of these 3310 marches, or will 3310 continue to get these pulls? The Arc is still on the floor. There you go. 1188 getting the pull. This Joan of Arc speeding away. And Brian, this looks like a first Arc control from 1188.
Absolutely. 1188 asserting control, asserting dominance at this first arc. 3310 confidently charged into them with To the Death. You don't see the charge in with To the Death too often. A confident push by 3310, but it just got rejected. It got straight up rejected by this veteran team with 5.2 billion power coming into this Osiris League. 1188 showing some real strength on that first arc. And it's back to the drawing board here for 3310.
We were talking about how 3310 wanted to go mid. This is their game plan. Go mid or go home. 1188, they're like, all right, you like going mid? Well, we could show that we could go mid as well. 3310, as you said, we're expecting their buildings to be taken. In fact, the Sky Altar was taken. But they definitely over-indexed in some of their defense here. And do you think it was a skill usage, the To the Death versus Heaven's Grace, or do you think it was actually the amount of marches that 1188 had, which proved to be the difference in this that open field murder ball fight in the middle?
You know, I think the skill could have been a factor there. A couple of things about To the Death in that situation. Number one, these are very beefy 1188 marches. By virtue of their armaments and their equipment, they're going to be just a little bit tankier than what 3310 has fought in the past. So To the Death, that nuke, that 1 minute burst damage that To the Death gives you does less against really beefy marches. And then also To the Death only affects 30 marches, whereas Heaven's Grace is a global skill. And there were more than 30 marches for both teams mid. Not way more than 30, but definitely more. So they didn't, cover all their marches with that To the Death. To the Death is better in the smaller mid fights, actually.
Yep.
And I think that's why people are using it a lot in this particular Osiris League. But in that case, that was a big mid fight, and it was a little bit neutralized.
Yeah, what a huge play from 1188. And the thing that's crazy about 1188 and where they're at now is that they have a points advantage, Brian. They used 6 points rather for the 8 points of 3310. So technically, they could hold this arc and try to win the building game, which they've been doing. Or they could, capture the arc, run it back, go another mid fight because they would have a points advantage. And also, 3310 don't have To the Death.
Yep, unless they have Time Warp on the bar, which is entirely possible. They do have a lot of room on that bar without Energetic on it. I'm guessing that 1188 has No March on their bar. By using less points mid, they will be able to get to No March faster if they want to.
Yeah.
It really puts 1188 in the driver's seat here. But at the same time, Plato, they understand that they have a tough opponent here. The score is tied before this arc gets returned. The total kills to severely wounded ratio is even. So I'm interested to see what 1188 does here, whether they do a full hold of this arc and rely on their side game, or do they have they really adjusted and they're going to go mid game this week? I think that we're going to see them hold it because they've also gathered quite a bit in the past. So they probably feel like they have a bunch of edges on the sides right now.
Yeah, if I had to predict, they're gonna hold it, use no march, and gather. Because even if you no march with even structures, you're at least gonna be getting extra points from the structures you hold. So, and that might be the play for 1188. They already did their wrinkle. They already did their, as you were saying, which side is going to be pushing the boundaries of the other opponent's style. And the first punch was definitely 1188. And it's not only a punch, they actually got the first round where they're able to steal the arc from 3310's noses, which is, 3310 especially so far this arc. By the way, talking about arcs, 1188 actually cashed it in early, making another arc spawn quickly. So that indicates to me that the extra points that they had from this initial mid fight is going to be allocated to the second mid fight.
Yeah, really interesting stuff by 1188 there. You wonder if it was a pregame plan or if they just saw how well they did in that first mid and they were like, we have to do this again. We were so dominant in that first mid fight that let's just repeat that again. Yeah, that's crazy, Plato. Like a really fast capture, one of the fastest captures we've seen. Pretty good timing on it. They are pushing in a number of lanes right now. And so they're just going to have one big attack here, and then they're probably going to go to mid early, if I have to guess. Maybe they'll try to get 2 attacks in.
1188, man. They're showing that, hey, just because we haven't been going mid this Osiris League doesn't mean we can't. They're showing that, hey, we are multifaceted. We could go middle if we want to. We could go structures if we want to. And now it's kind of 3310. They have to question what 1188 is doing, because they thought that they would go buildings in the first arc. They're not going buildings. With this, we could indicate that that 1188 is going to be going for that middle play again. But what if they use no march and just go buildings for alter no march gambits? There's just so many questions, that so many angles 1188 could play this, and 3310 are the ones scrambling for the answers.
They are. They're doing fine on the sides, though. Like, 3310 really is holding up on the sides. Looks like they're probably going to hold here at this Shrine of Life here on the bottom side. And so if they can win the next mid fight, then they're right back in this match. And in the next couple of minutes, it's really going to depend on which team, gets to mid correctly. Hold all your buildings, mess with the enemy, pressure the enemy as best you can, and then get to mid. Maybe 1188's doing that a little bit better right now, but 3310 is very stable. They have all their buildings. And so, things can definitely swing in their favor with just a little bit of, hitting the enemy a little bit harder with these open field marches.
1188, they definitely have the advantage in terms of tempo, but if 3310 kind of guess and estimate, or if they have the vision to see where 1188 is placing their marches, they definitely can, hold their structures while also going middle. But it's going to be a pretty tall ask, because they did not do a good job doing so in that first arc. We saw that they had like 15 marches AFK around their altars because they thought that 1188 would go structures. 1188, what do you think 1188 will do? Do you think they'll go middle, or do you think they'll potentially pump fake 3010 again and go structures this time?
I always just assume the simple strategy, Plato, and you've probably watched 1188 more than me, so you probably have a better sense of how dynamic and tricky they are. To me, the conventional play is always the one that's more likely. Like, they won the last mid fight, they've got plenty of points for this one, so they probably just go heavy mid again. But it's on the table. Like, trickery is on the table for sure here.
I will say there's people in the outer lane still rotating out to the Sky Altar. There's people walking, still going to their own Sky Altar. There are some people rotating middle as well. So perhaps doing this, hey, we're going to pressure everything, and then when we see the hole in the defense from 3310, we're just going to attack and exploit that. Because both teams here are kind of trying to guess where each other team is going to go.
Yeah, and look at the sentries in the mid. 1188 has 2 sentries on the middle, on both sides of the temple, trying to get a feel for where 3310 is, and also doing anti-sentry to keep the vision away from 3310. So they're trying to figure things out right now. And I do think these are like on-the-fly decisions that are happening, where it's like, if you push late on the sides and you die fast, then you're able to go mid. But if you push late on the sides and you have success, you're unable to go mid. And that affects the entire team. Like, that affects the entire team. So I don't think either team fully knows whether they're quote unquote going mid or not until very, very close to when the arc spawns.
Yeah, this is shot calling on the fly. This is teams saying, let's see how our opponents play. Let's see how they want to play it. And then we're going to respond in kind, try to, get an advantage in the rotation or lack thereof in the numbers that are missing middle or in the numbers that are missing on an altar. And yeah, we'll have to see how each team does, because I think this is a better mid rotation from 3310 than the first time. But you can see there's so many people on this outer lane on this Sky Altar. Never mind, I didn't see the marches on this top side, and they're taking the walk of shame, walking back home here. Oh my goodness, those marches might be the difference between 1188, taking this this
weird movement
arc.
there. Actually, a fresh march touched me with a fresh march going home, and then 2 other fresh marches walking out. Like, very interesting movement there. But I'm just looking at this mid, and I'm looking at that sentry behind the red team, where 1188 has been able to see this entire mobilization, like the whole thing. They've known they've had better numbers the whole way. They've taken the temple as a result of that knowledge, whereas 3310 has no idea what's happening mid. Yeah. And in fact, they're not really even dropping sentries. Like, they dropped a couple of sentries recently, but neither of them were mid, which is really strange.
And with their vision reduced even more so, that with Dust Up, that's a underrated use of Dust Up, where it also takes away vision. It's not the biggest reason why people use it. They just dropped a sentry, so they're able to get a sneak peek at how many 1188 marches there are.
For a couple seconds.
It looks like they are pushing. They see that they believe they have a numbers advantage. They have an advantage in this mid fight, so they're starting to push up. But they still have a skill point disadvantage, if I remember, Brian. And now the murder ball fight is starting. It is a bog down usage from 1188. What's the response from 3310? Do they have enough skill points to use for this mid fight for another skill? I don't think the answer is yes. I think the answer is no, because they would have used the skill by now, Brian.
Both teams really taking their time to use skills here. Super strange. Bog down Dust Up against nothing from 3310. No skills being cast by 3310 right now. This is crazy. At least use Dust Up or something. I mean, they've got 4 skills. They're going to be mid skills. This is wild. This is very strange, Plato, because they attacked in. They must have some degree of confidence, but why do you cast no skills?
Attacking in with no skills from 3310. The arrow tower this time was set up, so at least the arrow tower is actually arrow towering. But 1188, I mean, I guess that's an easy way to win middle if you use 6 skill points versus the 0 skill points used by your opponents. Now, the question is, why did they not use skill points? What do you think? Try to rationalize it for me, Brian. Why would you not use skill points if you were the ones to aggress in that middle fight?
We've seen it happen a few times in Ark of Osiris. The explanation I've gotten in the past was that the shot caller's power went out. And that, is what caused like no skills to get cast in certain matches in the past. I can't think of too many other reasons, Plato. I really can't. I don't know why you would cast no skills there. Now, maybe they have no march or something like that, but...
What if it's so that 1188 don't protect the arc and they use master strategies?
It could be. It could be master strategy. It
It's
could be
the
some
big
like
brain
crazy
play.
psyop. But like if you
But-
use no skills mid, like you don't kill any of the marches that could potentially escort the arc. Now
That's
in this
true.
case, no one actually did escort the arc, so master strategy is on the table. But of course, but Red doesn't know that because Red has had no vision of mid for the last 10 minutes.
They do have vision of
So-
arc though, because of their outposts. If you have control
Right,
of all
okay.
3 of your home outposts, they see what's around the arc, and they see that the arc only has like 1 person. So if they do have a master strategies, this would be a great time to use it. But I guess they're protecting the desert altar. It's getting closer and closer. The arc is to 1188's home base. It's gonna get harder and harder to contest. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe they thought, hey, we have a points disadvantage from that first arc, and we're just not gonna use points, so we're better in points for the third arc. I don't really know the explanation here, but there will for sure be a third arc in this game. But the only downside is they're gonna be down by 7k points.
I think the third arc is still exciting, Plata, because I really want to see if they cast skills next time. I feel like I'm genuinely interested in whether that happens. You know, if the shot caller's power did go out at a certain point, I don't really think that's even a valid excuse because at a certain point, I feel like someone else should be casting the skills because you're like, this is the obvious time to drop a, you know, a Heaven's Grace, or maybe it was the Bog Down. Maybe the Bog Down just straight up froze them and they didn't want to use Heaven's Grace. But you still use Dust Up. I mean, you've got Dust Up off cooldown. You can at least use that. And then whatever other fighting skills you have.
The Bog Down animation just turned off the power of 3310's skill user, is what you're saying. But yeah, there is literally no contest from 3310 on this arc, which is very interesting. I saw a skill use. I thought that was gonna be the you know, the oh my god,
Yeah,
you can literally see
master strategy.
the master strategist. It's been 1188 using skills ever since 15 minutes into the game. We're halfway through the game now. It's been a full 15 minutes of 3310 not using a single skill ever since they used To the Death. So there's definitely
And no
something going
energetic.
on. No
And
energetic.
no energetic either, right? Like you almost
Yeah.
wonder if something did happen with their bar. You know, something could have happened where like they decided to redo their bar and they got started on it. They were like, okay, we know we want To the Death, we know we want Dust Up, and then you forget to add the other 4 skills. Hard to say.
Well,
Not much
3310
explanation in the chat so far for what happened.
Yeah.
Casey Joseph says mistake, but that's the only analysis we've got from the chat so far on what happened with 3310.
This is a big game too, because whoever loses this game potentially are facing 93T in the first round. In the round of 16, you could face 93T, which has been the international server dominant player in the international server. You could also fight the likes of JST. You could there's just so many strong teams that are the first seed that you definitely do not want to fight in that first round of the round of 16. So I mean, 3310, it's not over. They're down by what's a true score here, Brian? Like they're down by what? Like 8, like 7.7k.
yeah.
I'm gonna round up to 8k.
Yep. So Ray in the chat saying 3310 is going to the next round. Why show anything when you've already made it? I mean, the thing is, like, the strategies are known. All the strategies are known. I don't think that unless 3310 has some pocket strategy that they don't want anyone to see, they're not really concealing much of anything.
I mean,
You know,
they
they're not
could've-
like
Yeah.
you could play a conventional game. Like you leave your pocket strategy in your pocket and just have a conventional bar with like normal mid skills like Bog Down or Sneaky Tactics or Heaven's Grace, whatever it's going to be. You're giving away nothing. You're not giving away any information at all. So, and like you said, Plato, the number 1 seed can potentially avoid 93T and JST. I would say the winner of this match is at least the 3rd best team in the realm of Anubis. And so if you get like a good draw where JST and 93T are on the other side of the bracket, you're potentially the favorite on your half of the bracket. You have a tough but doable road to the finals of Anubis, which is a great accomplishment. So, I mean, I think you're correct to say that a number 1 seed is very important.
Yeah, this is number 1 seed can make or break. I mean, you know, I've played Osiris League before. I'm sure you played Osiris League before. Winning Osiris League, especially when you're in the realm of the 960s, 932s of the world, isn't realistic, but the dream is to get the city skin, so you get that 3% training speed. You also just get the flex. You know, it's way more easier if you don't have to face 932 in the first round, but who knows, maybe 3310, they have that secret strategy you're talking about that they really want to use on 932. Although, you know, just because you're the 2nd seed doesn't also mean you're automatically facing 932. They could, you know, draw the likes of the other teams that are fighting for that 1st seed. I know there's some other teams there as well. I think 1606 is also a 1st seed, so you could fight 1606. They're still a very strong team, but it'll be really interesting to see if the story of 3310, if as to, you know, they gave up this game because they already made it to the knockout stage or whatnot. As we're talking about this, though, the game's not over yet, but they are down by about 5k points due to the no march used by 1188.
Yep, 1188 getting 767 points per minute at the moment with just their own buildings. No extra points from other buildings, but No March is still giving them a nice little score boost. It's going to be enough of a score boost to make that 3rd arc largely irrelevant. And, you know, 1188 is probably a little bit confused like we are at the moment, but they can just play the points game where it's like, if we just hold this arc the whole time, we ensure that there's only one more arc, and essentially there aren't enough minutes in the game or points on the table for 3310 to come back. Yeah.
They have control of this whole match right now. With the occupation game, with the arc game, 3310 trying to make do without the skills. I mean, I will say the thing about 3310 is they've been holding their structures pretty decently, especially against a team that uses no march, against a team that, you know, the past 2 games we've been seeing going the occupation game here. But we'll have to see if like Brian, if you were 3310, like, what would be the steps to come back here if you're like 3310 leadership in this game right now? What are you telling your team, and what do you think they can do to come back into this game?
Well, you just got to win that 3rd arc for sure, and maybe you try to master strategy at home, like you win the 3rd arc and master strategy at home, and then you potentially create a 4th arc. It's tough to do anything other than that when you're down this much. Yeah. So it really is like, continue to hold your buildings, give up no buildings at all. At this point they've lost 2 of their buildings. So, you know, that's the first step, right? Is stabilize things on the side. And then use, you know, at this point they've saved up 20 points, Plato. So they can use, and I'm joking here, but they can use 20 points mid for the 3rd arc and just completely dominate.
Oh man.
You use 3 bog downs at once, make the entire middle a swamp with the triple bog down skills.
And then burn the swamp on fire with Inferno. That'll be the...
Yes, exactly.
That'll be the play. But yeah, it is going to be really interesting to see the draw of 3310. Because if 3310 get I won't say easy opponent, because all of the 1st seeds, they deservedly won their group. But, you know, getting a SV92, which I don't even know if they're winning their game, potentially a SV92 versus a 993T is like a very different you know, opponent to verse, if that makes sense. So
absolutely.
The only reason I said SV92 is because those are my boys. So, but yeah, we could see the Desert Altar being assaulted. And Brian, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say, like, 3310 does do a bunch of things well. Like, one of the things I like is they fight well together. A lot of times you see teams, like, individual players will sort of, they have to keep going forward. They have to keep going forward, and they don't fight with their team as much. What I've seen from 3310 in general is that they will wait for their teammates, and then they will fight together. That might not put them in the exact location that they want to fight, but they're fighting together, and so they're just much more likely to win those fights. So I do like all of that from 3310. We've seen them push into 1188 twice mid. And those were pretty good pushes, Plato. Like they were pretty coordinated. Everyone went in together.
Oh. Wait, they use a skill. Dust up used by 3310. Okay, so they
Dust up used, Whitey Smash. You know, I think that Big Tyrion has normally cast the skills for... I don't know. I've seen Big Tyrion casting skills in the past for 3310. It doesn't look like Big Tyrion is in the match today, actually. So...
Perhaps
let's
that
see, was
being
Whitey casting the skills earlier? Oh, so Whitey's been casting all the skills, but I know that Big Tyrion was casting some of the skills in the match I watched last week. I don't know if he was casting all of them or not. So maybe a different skill caster this week, but I mean that's not really a reason to not use any skills.
The more and more we get into this game, the theory of setting the skills and then not having the other skills on the bar is more of a reality to me. You know what I mean? Like you were talking about how some of the skills weren't set on the bar, which I guess like with the way that this match is going, kind of tracks. But man, that'd be such a sad way to go. As this, I mean, at least we have to keep in mind. At least they're not out of Osiris League. They'll still be in. They'll still be in the knockout stage, but they could potentially be a second seed, and then if they fight a JST or a 93T, it's going to be a very tough matchup. Although we've seen in their past couple of matches, they're still a very, very strong team, 3310.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely a chance that something like a big mistake happened with the skill bar. I tend to agree that that's becoming more likely as we see only dust up get used at this point. Yeah, you know, hey, I'm sure 1188 is not complaining about that. 1188 just won a KVK last week. They won a Kingsland against another top Osiris League contender, 2748. From what I heard, it was a clean Kingsland win for 1188 and their allies. They had the stronger allies, and they pulled off a very clean win against 2748, which is undoubtedly a confidence boost for this strong Korean kingdom. And they're probably coming into this Osiris League feeling better and better. You know, they won KVK last week. Now they're going to go 3-0 in their group, most likely. If the other team gives you an advantage, or if you simply have the advantage through matchmaking, you just lean into that, take advantage, and by and large, your players are very happy. So I don't think 1188 is complaining about these errors at all.
3310 just trying to make... I will say that kudos to them. They've been able to hold their structures really well. But just not being able to contest the middle fights just because due to the fact that they've not been able to use these skills. I'm looking at chat. SV92 is losing. Oh, wow. Okay. SV92 is indeed losing, according to chat. Apparently, it was an easy Kingsland as well as a 9-hour Kingsland between those two kingdoms you were talking about. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how far 1188 go, especially because they're old friends in Horus. 93T, JST are in the same realm as them. It's like a lot of the top teams in Horus were all put into Anubis for fun. But yeah, it'll be really interesting because 1188, they've always been a very, very solid team. They've always made it far, and then they got stopped by the likes of JST and 93T. So how far do you think 1188, how far do you think they could go with this first seed that they look like they have under control right now?
I mean, it's hard to say, Plato. It's honestly hard to say. I mean, they only won last week by like 9,000 points against 1473. They are losing a little bit on the kill point to severely wounded ratio here. So it's pretty hard for me to say. I think a lot of it comes down to how much you practice in this Osiris League season. The opportunities to practice are numerous. It's no more that you can only practice with your own kingdom. You can practice with all sorts of other kingdoms through the custom match feature in Arc. So, you know, if 1188 puts in a ton of practice, then they certainly have the account strength and the experience to potentially win or go very far. I really do think it comes down to like which team wants it more, which team is going to practice more. Will 93T go out there and seek practice partners now that their kingdom mates, their other kingdom teams have all been eliminated? Will 1188 find good practice partners? They probably can't practice with JST because they're in the same realm as JST, so they need to find some other practice partners. I think that's really what it comes down to over the next month or two. Which teams are going to practice more and get really sharp?
Yeah, as I will say that the practice Osiris League matches is pretty cool. We've seen some really interesting uses of it for Osiris League tournaments or Osiris League practices, but also, you know, Chadsky's one-on-one tournament, which we saw as well, or a 3v3 tournament. So it'll be really interesting to see like how 1188 plays into this, and I guess it also depends on the group you draw, right? If they face 93T in the quarterfinals, then that's going to be a tough draw, or JST as well. But I mean, they've looked solid so far this season. They've looked solid so far this game, although it does come into the blunders of 3310 with their skills. Now, my question to you, Brian, is do you think this was an intentional, as chat suggested? Do you think this is like them trying to hide their strategy, or do you think this was a mistake from 3310?
I'm going to give them enough credit and say that it was a mistake, because I think it would make less sense if they were trying to hide their strategy. Yeah, I think it has to be a mistake, Plato. It's not worth it. There's just no world where it's worth it. Like, you bum out your own players. Like, when you don't cast skills mid and your players just get ripped apart in a mid fight, like, you bum out your own players by doing that. So I just don't think it can possibly be a strategy here. And, you know, their skill caster Big Tyrion is not in this match. I think that matters too. It's all sort of, I think, coming together a little bit here. That they probably just forgot to put all their skills on the bar.
As this game continues to wind down, 9k differential between 1188. They did capture the arc from about 4 minutes ago as we were talking. There's going to be one last arc fight. Do you think if you're 3310, would you type to 1188, say, hey, no skills this mid fight? We're just going to try to open field murder ball fight with and see who wins.
They need to add an in-game emoji for something like that, like no skills this time, or go easy on it. There needs to be an emoji that says "go easy on us," you know?
Oh god.
If I had been 1188 on that second mid fight, once you realize that you're winning the mid fight and the enemy has not cast any skills, you got to throw that question mark up there. Somebody needed to throw the question mark emoji up to be like, "What's going on, dudes?"
Yeah, I think the first sign of something interesting going on was when there wasn't the first minute of the game, when there wasn't an energetic used by 3310. As you said, energetics used by every single team. 3310 in the past has also used it. So I mean, it's interesting to see, you know. 3310, I think, like, if you're in this situation as a 3310 member, as 3310 person, like, what can you gain from playing this game right now? I guess it's like getting used to the ebb and flow of the game, you know, filling structures, trying to respond to the pressure of Lemonade and using it as kind of like a practice game without skills.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can learn some things about what is the best thing to do when you're around a building and defending, which what I've seen so far is that 3310 has been like swarming down the rallies. And I think that's generally that is the right thing to do, but they've been nuking the rallies very fast with these defenses. That has worked quite well. At this point, the map is getting a little bit out of hand for them. They've lost they've lost those outside buildings a bunch of times at this point. You know, maybe they have to look at where they're indexing their marches. Are they a little too heavy on the inside, a little too light on the outside? That could be the case. But there is a fair bit to learn. And, you know, Plato, one of the things that's interesting to me is that, like, we note these things as these matches go on. We note these little details. They don't necessarily seem that important as the match is happening. But I'm going to tell you, Plato, we've cast 3 matches this season so far. In every match, we have noted a detail that literally decides the match. The first week, I noted how, like, the arc carrier was not walking to the fastest building for WIB. and how that was costing them time for the fourth arc. That literally decided the match.
Oh, that is true.
Last week you pointed out that ULT was going to get the first capture on the enemy desert altar, and how that was like 1,500 points. And the difference in that match last week was basically 1,500 points. And then this week you point out there's no energetic used. It doesn't seem like a big deal at the time, but it's literally the whole match. That's the whole match, that they have issues with their skill bar. And we figured it out from the fact, well, maybe they don't have issues.
Sneaky tactics.
What the heck?
It is all
Okay.
They do have other skills, chat. They do have other skills. Wait a second. They bamboozled all of us. Oh, you know what? Oh my goodness. Wait, is this like, hey, we're down 10k and we just want to make the biggest comeback in Arc of Osiris League history?
They could master strategy this thing and create a fourth arc. The time barely works out.
This is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, they have skills on the. I mean, wait. So if that was the 5th skill on the bar, does that mean they have another 2 skills that are available? Is that what that indicates? And by the way, it does look like they're going to try to match,
right?
Yeah.
Because if they have that sneaky tactics, they definitely have 2 more skills. They didn't like. That's not, the skills get added one at a time.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they definitely have all these other skills. Why are they not using skills, Plato? That's so friggin' weird, man. I don't get it.
I don't know. Well, this is gonna be like a 30 for 30. Like we gotta after the season, we gotta interview 3310. What happened in this game, which dictates seeding. This is something that matters for sure. And as you predicted, I think they're gonna go for the sneaky tactics master strategist steal on this arc. Let's see if they're gonna able to get first pull. It is a master strategy. It is a master strategy from 3310. Are they gonna be able to steal it? They got first tap. Wait, did they? No, this is a 1188 player.
LV Jin.
1188. Oh no, they did get first tap. Whitey got first tap. Were they able to steal the arc? They were! They stole the arc from under 1188's nose. And now they have an arc. What are they going to do with it? Are they going to insta-cap it, force a 4th arc? It looks like that's the case. It's going to be a 4th arc.
Okay, so there's their pocket strategy.
We know
they can steal an arc very well.
Wow. That was... I mean, that's going to be the highlight for the game right there. That's you're going to see that on the official Rise of Kingdoms channel on the official highlights. You heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. But that is, they were able to steal the arc. 1188's like, well, that sucks. So we're just going to go ahead and win the game now. But I mean, that was at least something this game.
That was as clean of an arc steal as I've ever seen. They were in and out as quickly as you can warp them.
You can see that 1188's like, I'm mad. I'm gonna just use all my skills. Time warp, no march, energetic. Let's just spam all the skills. Let's just get the points back. But yeah, that was a very, very clean steal from 3310, and I think that kind of throws away the whole hide the playbook ordeal, because now everyone knows that they are really good at stealing arcs with the master strategies and sneaky tactics. Like,
I'm back to the power being out. I'm back to the power being out explanation.
Oh, okay.
On the second arc.
Chat, we should get chat in this. Do you think the power was out? Do you think... I mean, it's not the skills not being used. It's not the skills not being on the bar, that's for sure.
No, it's not
it's
that.
between power being out or hiding the strategies for the upcoming rounds, or their skill user, their main skill user, not being available today. That's a 3.
So what it could be, is that they feel like the skills they had were just like not worth casting, because like they had Desert Storm last week. And so like Desert Storm doesn't really do much of anything mid. It's a one-time 500 damage factor nuke on marches.
Yep.
And so I don't know what the 6th skill would then be. Like if it's Bog Down, I feel like you throw Bog Down down. But it could be something like that. Maybe it's like Inferno plus Desert Storm, and they just didn't cast Inferno fast enough, and then it no longer seemed worth it. Something like that.
Maybe. Yeah, because, sneaky tactics, master strategies is not the best mid skills for sure. And we can see the full bar of 1188. They had Energetic, which is, that's pretty much the must-use skill. They got Dust Up, Bog Down, Heaven's Grace, No March, and Time Warp. So, in all honesty, if 3310, I feel like if 3310 were able to get that rotation on that first arc, they would have pretty decent control, because at least for 1188, their 10 skill bar, their 10 skill their 10 skill point combination rather is Dust Up, Bog Down, Heaven's Grace, which is still pretty good, but I wouldn't say that's the most optimal mid skills.
No, it's not the most optimal, but it's a pretty good combo, honestly, at this point. I kind of like this skill bar quite a bit from 1188, because Heaven's Grace is a little more powerful because less teams are using Bog Down, which Bog Down is the hard counter to Heaven's Grace.
Yeah.
And if you just hold the arc for a while, you can get that Heaven's Grace off cooldown and use it again.
Oh,
maybe you skip the second mid and then use it for the third mid. So it's decent. The thing is, if you use Time Warp plus to the death, you kind of accomplish the same thing. You have like 2 really good mid fights in you, and you're using a bit less skills that way. So,
man, this is super interesting. That the skill usage of these different teams. I'm gonna be very curious to see the top of the top teams use these skills, and then once we get to grand finals as well, where it'll be like an even state, everyone will have the same account, same gear, and all that stuff. That'll be when the skill usage and the execution of the skills will be absolutely paramount, and that's going to be even more amplified with the Grand Prix. So if you guys want to see all of that, be sure to subscribe to this channel, the official Rise of Kingdoms channel, as we are going to be casting all of that here. But man, this has been a very interesting game. There was an arc steal. There's gonna be what, like 50 seconds on the last arc? Can you capture an arc in 50 seconds? I don't think so, right?
I mean, with a T1 march going straight to the outpost, I don't think it's enough time, but it's pretty close. It's pretty close. A T1 march.
It's also 10 seconds to take the arc, right?
Right, that's true. I think that's probably what makes the difference. I think it's that 10 seconds that kills you. Yeah, I don't really think they have enough time. Unless they're getting points back that quickly, which is possible.
In the chat as well, which he's playing in this game.
Yeah, it looks like Bot knows the outcome already. Listen, if you're facing 3310 next, there's some element of that unpredictability that has been achieved by 3310 here.
That's true.
Where like you really don't know what to expect from them next week from mid, because they confidently charged into 1188 twice. They charged right into them like they knew they were going to win, and they somehow also knew they weren't going to cast any skills and were definitely going to lose. So it's like, what are they thinking? What is 3310 thinking? What are they going to do next time? I mean, there's still a little bit of surprise here, I guess, that they have pulled off.
This is going to be, 3310. I'm gonna be very curious to see what their draw is, because they lost this game, so they're gonna be the second seed of Group A. Now that does mean that they have the potential to fight 9-3T in the first round. But if they fight another, like, I feel like half of the first seeds in this in the realm of Anubis, so 3310 are pretty much favored from what we've seen so far.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I agree with you.
Yeah.
They definitely have the account strength. The account strength seems to be there to be competing on the sides with 1188. The mid is still a question mark, though, because the first mid was a pretty fair fight, right?
Yeah.
To the death plus Dust Up, and they got beat pretty hard there.
Yes, to the death, Dust Up. I made that tongue twister for no reason. Versus to the death and heaven's grace. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where 3310 do. I wonder how they're gonna do the draw. If it's gonna be a live stream again, or if it's just gonna be announced. Because yeah, this draw for 3310 as the second seed will mean a lot for them, because if they get a JST or 93T, it's gonna be very, very tough to move on. But against everyone else, I feel like they have a very solid chance.
I hope they do the live draws. I like the live draws. I like when some of the Lilith staff members get dressed up and treat it like it's a state lottery over there. You know, it's pretty exciting.
We gotta tell a goose that she needs to dress into a goose again and draw all of the teams. But and all things considered, 3310 with the lack of skill usage actually played pretty decently in terms of holding their buildings. We could see that Arc is about to spawn.
Time Warp by Whitey there. That gives them master strategy again.
Oh, wait a second.
So they're going for it. But
if they
the
double
master
steal,
strategy is late though.
If they double steal an Arc with master strategies in the same game,
they
Arc
did
was
get
dropped.
it. 3310 did get it. They did get it, but they lost control.
Arc was dropped.
And the warp is closing.
Oh, and now all their marches are teleported out. No, it was so close. It was so close. If they got that Arc, got 9 Kane provisions, they would have won the match. But 1188, shout out to them, played their game, played what they needed to do, did what they needed to do, and they are now the first seed in Group A. 3310, they are still in Osiris League. They will still be in the knockout stage, but they will be the second seed in Group A. And we'll have to see next week who they're going to verse, and that'll be really interesting to see. But you could see the final score here, 32.2k points for 3310 versus 43.9k points to 1188. Brian, do you have any final notes of this game that we just watched?
Very solid performance by 1188. Very quizzical face performance by 3310. They did a massive amount of healing in this match, and yet did not cast mid skills for the second Arc. Tried to steal 2 Arcs with a master strategy. It was not enough against 1188. So we will see both of these teams again next time.
All right, that is it for us. That is it for the cast, and that is it for the group stage. Next week, we will be casting the knockout stage, where it'll be a win or go home scenario. Regardless, the first seeds fighting the second seeds. And so be sure to subscribe to this channel, the official Rise of Kingdoms channel. And if you enjoyed the cast, Brian Ka and I's channel are in the description as well. Be sure to subscribe to all of our channels. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace.